Hello, everybody. Today I am joined by the Season 2 America's Grandmasters champion. It's Monsanto. And Monsanto, I just want to say my wife is also from Quebec. She's French-Canadian. She told me that when I start this interview, I have to speak French to you in order to just make it official. So, bravo! Tu es le champion.
Merci, TJ. That means thanks.
Yeah, I know. I know a good amount.
Oh, wow.
I know a good amount of French, but I get nervous speaking it, just because I always think it's bad. But yeah.
No, that was really good.
Okay.
I understood everything.
Awesome. Well, it's 4 words, so I would hope you would understand everything, and they're very simple.
Yeah.
All right, Monsanto,
Yep.
you just come off of a big win yesterday, which means you're going to the World Championship. Of course, this is kind of a winner's interview, even though it didn't happen right after. But how does it feel, man?
It feels really, really good. That was my main goal since I started competing in 2016, and it just feels really good to have achieved it now. And I guess it's not over. I still have to perform at Worlds, but this was like a really big milestone for me.
Yeah, Dan and I kind of talked about it throughout the weekend, but it feels like you've accomplished almost everything else. You've been a top pointer in Americas. You've done well in Grandmasters. You're in the top 5 winningest players in Grandmasters in its history, the last 4 seasons, and Worlds feels like kind of the last step for you, I suppose.
Yeah.
And
it's my first time winning a tournament since when I was 6 years old and I won a chess tournament.
Oh, really? Like any tournament?
Yep. Yep.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's cool. That's an achievement for sure.
Yep.
What were your expectations going to the weekend? Because obviously you weren't just playing the finals; you had to get through groups. And what were your expectations?
I mean, I always hope I'm gonna win the whole thing. Like every time I start a new tournament, I'm always really hopeful. I got to rank 1 legend with that warrior deck, and I was like, this is just strictly better than normal end range warrior, and it's not vulnerable to the anti-warrior potentially. So I was really confident on that, and I felt like I was playing the game pretty well, and all I needed to do was to, like, I just needed to be in good shape to play good Hearthstone, and I knew that I was putting in more effort than most of the other GMs, I feel, towards the end. So, and I think it paid off.
It definitely showed, to be honest. There was a couple players that their matches just were higher quality overall towards the last couple weeks. So, I appreciated you putting in that effort. But, you mentioned Pain Warrior. Where did you come up with the idea for that deck? Because it kind of came out of nowhere, and then I started to see more people playing it on ladder. You said you hit rank 1 legend with it. Where did the kind of beginnings of that deck stem from?
I was just playing normal and Rage Warrior, like the old one, and I just found it was not adjusted at all for the current meta. And basically, Priest and Mage just they made all the cards like Bomb Wrangler and Egg just so bad because they could either steal it or devolve it all the time. So I'd rather have cards that generate more cards, like every other Hearthstone deck, like Quartermaster instead of Bomb Wrangler. And also the weapon, Livewire Lance, it just couldn't kill anything ever. And having the big weapon with Cleave, with like card draw, that just all of that just is much better, I feel, right now. It's just a big improvement on a deck that was already pretty good.
Well, you hit rank 1 legend with it, but I'm curious, like, how many games of Pain Warrior do you think you played, of your version of Pain Warrior, do you think you played before you submitted it? And how many games do you think is necessary to put into a new deck like that in order to bring it to a big tournament? Because, not to poke fun at RDU or anything, but he brought a Highlander rogue that didn't perform well, and then he said he only played like 20 games or something and had a good win rate on it. And so I was just curious, like, what is a good amount of time to play a deck before you feel like it's good enough to bring to a finals?
I played it, I think, a little bit over 50 games. I had like over 70% win rate, and the thing is, like, when I played it, it looked very overpowered. Like the games I won, it just felt. Sometimes you play a deck and you win 9 in a row, and you feel like you scammed all of those games. This deck, it just felt right every time that I won. It just felt like I should have won, and like I don't know. It's just a question of feeling. I felt the deck was good, and I think it was pretty. It was pretty good. I ended up never facing the entire Bomb Warrior strategy, so having Bomb Warrior would have done the exact same thing. It ended up being banned 3 out of 4 times. It got the 1 win out of the 1 game it played. But Bomb Warrior would have just been banned 4 times instead. It would have been very similar.
I mean, 100% win rate. That should be the tagline of the deck. 100% win rate in the entire final weekend of Hearthstone Grandmasters, and it
haven't lost
helped
with
qualify
it,
you to Worlds.
Exactly. I mean, Bomb Warrior would have been the same. It would have been it would have been 0 out of 0.
That's a 0% win rate.
That's true. Language Hacker did not want to respect it.
Yeah.
But.
Well, I mean, he paid for it, so.
Exactly.
So talking about the finals, you ended up facing ETC in the finals, who I know has been a longtime friend of yours and practice partner, right?
Yep.
How was that? Because ETC had a kind of a much different story from you, where you've been working towards the World Championship for a long time. You're not retiring, at least as far as we know. He's made it clear that this is last season. He kind of want to go on top. Did you guys have any conversations before the finals or conversations after?
Because we actually kind of prepped a little bit together. He didn't trust my warrior deck, but we actually didn't. We both thought that we were in different groups if he ended up getting into the playoffs. So we prepped more than I would have if I knew he was in my group. But I mean, I ended up winning all the games, so we never had to face, so that was fun. Right before the tournament, he told me to not lose so that we can meet in finals. And I was like, sure, but you got to do your part. And then he did his part, and then we met in finals. That was really cool. I was happy.
Yeah, and it was a pretty intense finals, honestly. I mean, a lot of the matches were intense when you factor in Rogue and Mage into the mix, because it feels like when you go into those games, almost anything can happen. And you guys kind of had this crazy last game where I looked at both opening hands and I said, both of these hands are 1 card away from completely popping off. And you ended up having this turn where at the end it was turn 4 or 5, crazy early on in the game, where you had Sorcerer's Apprentice, Ashman Solarian, and a Mana Giant on the board. And that's a 99.9% win scenario, right? As soon as you see him pass over that turn and not deal with any of those things, what's going through your mind? Because you were dialed in, you were super focused. But what was going through your mind?
I mean, I was actually trying to not think about I was just trying to focus on the game still until it's not it's not over until it's not over. But it was hard. I was actually it was really hard to not smile already, because I knew I probably had made it. It was so unlikely it didn't work. And I mean, I've been waiting for that for a very long time now. But yeah, I mean, that game was just he had 1 turn, and then he was hoping I didn't have that exact answer, and then I had the perfect possible answer for that. I cleared his questing turn that he invested everything into, and then I built a big board with a giant. He could do anything.
Yeah, those are kind of those crazy final moments where, he went all in, and he knew that you would have to go all in as well to deal with it. Excuse me. It just so happened that your all in, made it better board at the end of the day. So, just kind of overall thoughts. Was this kind of a more? We talked about. Mentioned the dynamic between Rogue and Mage and Priest, and a lot of players have been posting there's just a lot of randomly generate cards. Every game feels completely different. There's so many things that you can't play around. Despite all that, it did seem like the players that were able to play cleanly were the ones who made it into that top 4. The players that throughout the entire season who have been playing Tempo Mage cleanly, who have been playing Secret Rogue cleanly, were the players that made it into top 4. But despite that, was this kind of more of a stressful tournament because of how volatile some of the decks are in the metagame than some of the other tournaments you may have played in the past?
I don't know. I mean, whether it's just some draws being so much better than other draws, or it's random outcomes, I feel there's always been a lot in a game of Hearthstone that is just out of the player's hands. And I don't believe that right now there's more. I think right now there's more in the player's hands than there has been in the last like 2 years. Or maybe not all, but like in general, I feel like there's a little bit more. Like there's a real edge you can get by playing well right now. Even though it's not every game, sometimes you're just gonna get rolled by a Solarian Prime or something. But you can navigate some turns better, and it is gonna change the outcome of the game. Like, I'm not a Tempo Mage expert. I played 130 games of Tempo Mage on ladder, and I'm at exactly 50-50 win rate. And I know that there are some much better Tempo Mage players out there, and you're going to get 15% more win rate just by playing that deck well. I've been playing, like, I've had pretty good win rate with, like, the other decks, but Tempo Mage I've been struggling a bit. And that's what I'm talking about. It's just, if you're good, you're actually going to get a huge advantage in, like, 15% is actually huge in Hearthstone, I feel, at even just Legend level, but even in top level Grandmasters, etc.
Well, we have like stats from players that are the most winningest players with specific decks. Lorinda keeps track of all these stats, and Tempo Mage was one of the most played decks. We have the biggest sample size for many players because it wasn't banned that often, and it appeared in a lot of lineups throughout the entire season. And all of the top 5 players for Tempo Mage win rate were in the top 8, so in the 2 groups. And the 2 highest Tempo Mage, I think you were 4th, but the 2 highest, which was Muzzy and Killin' All Day with Tempo Mage, were in the top 4. So it did feel like your success on that deck was what like pushed people into the top. So it makes a lot of sense to me, even though you can see these crazy like pop-off turns. It's how you navigate in between the pop-off turns, what you prioritize, you know, how greedy or how liberal you are with your resources, you know, to be able to crap.
That gets super hard and super punishing if you make like one big misstep, it's just everything's ruined. Same with Secret Rogue though, and even Demon Hunter. Like, I don't know, the decks right now, you need to play them well in order to win at the top level, and I think that's good.
Yeah, and I like to kind of remind myself that when we get, you know, those crazy games where, you know, Solarian Prime casts 2 puzzle boxes, and then your opponent plays a Solarian Prime and it casts a puzzle box.
Yeah.
Not naming any names, that definitely didn't happen this weekend. It just Aid versus Nalgene in the relegation bracket.
I mean, I know those games happen, and there's nothing to do about it.
Yeah.
They haven't happened that much to me. Maybe I'm just biased, but
yeah,
I don't know. In Grandmasters, the Solarian Primes haven't been deciding most of my games. I don't think there's been a single box.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
So maybe I've just been lucky.
Well, I was, you know, for every like one of those games that happen, I feel like there's 10 to 15 games where that doesn't happen. So, and you know,
but they're less memorable.
They're less memorable, exactly. So I do think that, you know, the clean play and good play and, you know, consistent practice was what gave us that top 4, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, kind of looking forward a little bit. World Championship. It's not for 2 months now, so you know, you got some time. This is going to be a completely different meta game. But how are you feeling about, you know, looking at the other players? You got Bloodyface from Americas. You got Silvername and Yarla from Europe. Glory and Bankyugi from Asia Pacific, and then Sif so far from China. How are you feeling about your chances, kind of looking at this lineup of players?
I don't know. I mean, obviously right now I'm feeling good. I think right now I'm pretty good at the current state of the game, but it's going to be completely different. I'm going to have to work just as hard then. Those players are really good. This is probably going to be the most stacked tournament I'm going to have to be in this year. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what are my odds. I would say about 1 out of 8.
Wow. Okay.
To be.
Well, that's
because we're 8 players.
That's average.
Yes.
Do you think that you're better when there's like a solved metagame and trying to like break that mold, or do you think you're better at when there's like a brand new metagame, new cards, and a lot of exploration to do? Like, what do you think is your strong suit? In
usually my strong suit is not super new metagame, but like relatively new when it's not 100% solved, but it's also not 100% like experimental. Like I'm good at like finding something that's almost refined and then refining it a little bit. Or I mean, I feel like that's what I did with the warrior. I didn't create anything new. I just refined a deck. Right now the meta's been there for a bit, but I feel like it's not totally solved. People still disagree on what's good, what's not. The Druid nerf kind of changed everything. It kind of killed Priest, but some people still brought Priest. I don't think they were very successful with it. So yeah, the small changes, I'm good right after a small change or a little bit of time after a big change, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense with how your lineup was, and it makes like your point about the metagame right now not being solved shows through when you look at the 3 players that won each region this weekend, and they all had different lineups or a different overall strategy. So that's pretty cool to see, and I really like that you kind of took a risk with bringing your own deck, a deck that you refined that nobody else brought, and ended up winning a finals with it.
I mean, it was warrior after all, so it just got banned like every good warrior would.
But the one game that it was tested, you won.
Yep, it did pretty well.
And a ban is a win in my book, even though you said Bomb Warrior would have. But you bring Bomb Warrior, and in an alternate reality, Yarla's in Americas, and you go up against him in the finals, and he's got anti-Bomb Warrior, then you pretty much have no chance. So
yeah, it would have been sad.
Yeah.
I didn't want to take that risk, and that was just a very decent alternative.
Yeah. But that's all the questions I have for you, man. I don't normally do this in my interviews, but since this is a special winners interview, I'll give you the opportunity to give any shout outs or thanks and just any words that you'd like to give here at the end.
All right. I didn't prepare that. Okay, so for the prep, I would like to thank ETC the most, because I think we talked the most, but I also prepped a little bit with Eddie Bloody Face this week. I talk a lot about the game with Casey. Thanks to the people. I have fans. I noticed that this week. I have people that don't like me, but I have fans too. That's really fun to know. I'm gonna try my best to win the worlds as well. I'm not very good at shout outs, but yeah.
No, that was good.
Oh, that was miserable.
No, that was perfect.
I'm sorry.
That was genuine. That was genuine.
Sure.
And I just hope that you do it for me and Dan, because we constantly.
I'll do it for you. If I get another winners interview at Wells, I'm gonna win it.
Okay, good, because Dan and I have been talking with the other casters, hyping up Americas. And, we would look silly if Europe wins the World Championship again. So,
yeah.
Please don't let that happen.
I'm going to make sure this doesn't happen.
Okay. At the very least, just knock out whoever the European player in your group is. That's all I can ask.
All right. I'll do that.
All right, man. Well, thanks for the interview, and big congratulations. And you better be honing your skills over the next 2 months for the World Championship. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Well, you guys can check out Monsanto at the World Championship, which will be broadcast right here on this YouTube channel, youtube.com/Hearthstone Esports, on December 12th and 13th, so just a couple months away. Also, if you're hungry for more Hearthstone action, we have the Masters Tour Madrid online coming up in just 2 weeks from October 23rd through 25th. Again, right here on this YouTube channel, you can tune in and check out anything else you want to know about Masters Tours or upcoming Grandmaster schedule at playhearthstone.com/esports.